Okay, so we are here with Heather. I'm really excited to share Heather's story. She has amazing success. She's gained a lot of freedom, a ton of progress, and just shed a lot of crap from the past, and is moving forward into the rest of her beautiful life. And her story, we were just talking about before this, it's really going to help a lot of people. It's very, very inspiring, and a lot of people need this story. So I appreciate you being here to share it tonight, Heather. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you. Thank you. I'm really glad to be here.
Yes, glad to have you. Glad to have you. It's always nice to connect with you. So I'm going to start you with our first question. Just tell me about kind of how far back the issues with food go, and maybe a bit about how they started.
Yeah. So most recently, I would say my binge eating has been bad since my first son was born, who is now 7. I had some pretty significant postpartum depression, and but I know I was binging back in like elementary school as well. I just wasn't aware that that's what it was. But sort of coming clean with my binging happened when my son was born. And it was a lot of hiding in my car and sneaking food and hiding evidence of eating food. And I it was very traumatic, also going through the postpartum stuff. And I was keeping all of that from my husband and really isolating myself and shaming myself and just really bad self-talk while I was going through that. So.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. So it had started it had happened in elementary, but then it got very present. It got worse 7 years ago, I guess, after your firstborn, hey?
Yeah, and as a kid, like I said, I didn't realize that that's what it was. A lot of it was usually patterns that I would see from my parents, mainly my dad. I don't know that he would label himself as a binge eater, but he would come home from work and eat a bunch of food after work, and I saw that, and so I began doing that. And also, I wasn't, preparing lunch and taking lunch to school, so I wouldn't eat all morning, and I would have a lot of trouble concentrating at school, and then I would come home and eat a bunch of food, and it just sort of set me up from a young age to consume a lot in a short amount of time. And so
Mm-hmm.
it just sort of over the years exacerbated until as an adult I had a completely backwards relationship with food. So when I had the postpartum, it just really got out of control.
Okay. Okay. And then so was it the worst in at that point 7 years ago, or did it kind of get worse from there, or?
Yeah, it was pretty bad after my son was born. I was going through several drive-throughs at a time and eating enough for probably 6 adults. We were living in Atlanta, Georgia at the time, and I would go to the drive-through, come home, and I was shoving bags of food into my son's stroller. And just so I wouldn't have this like walk of shame from my car to my apartment, and no one would see me carrying that much food.
Mm.
As just this At that point, I was just me and my son, and yeah, it was just scary how dark and isolating it was. And at that point, I reached out to Overeaters Anonymous, and because I was just so lost. But in that presence, it was so overwhelming. I went to one meeting, and then I didn't do it anymore. I wasn't ready for help at that time. So.
Okay. Okay. And those days I've been there too. It's really hard. What did you find to be the hardest part about being stuck in that place?
Mainly the isolation. I was scared. Obviously my husband loves me and I can go to him with anything, but that was the one thing that I wasn't sure how to tell him. And so just feeling completely alone in that. And I didn't know anyone else with that problem, because if you have binge eating disorder, I'm sure you probably feel completely alone, that it feels so shameful. You don't want anyone to know that you do that. Most people aren't binging in front of their families or their friends. So it's usually something in your car or you're hiding with it. And so I just didn't know how to share it. And it just felt like this suffering in silence that I just didn't know how to get out from.
Yeah, I think that's well said. Yeah, the isolation is really intense, and the shame and the feeling, feeling really alone and different. And I think you put that really well. And you said, I know you tried a lot of stuff. Like people end up in that desperate place and they start kind of reaching for shiny objects like diets and OA and all this. And you kind of reached for all of them on your journey. And I always say it's an expression of your resilience and desire to figure this out. But just that resilience and desire, it can work against you if you're pointed at the diet industry, essentially, right? So I wanted to hear a bit about what are the things that you did try?
How long do we have? No, I mean, I tried a lot of stuff, usually elimination diet. So I did juice cleanses, I did vegan, I did vegetarian, whole 30s, sugar-free, carb-free, carnivore, keto, you name it, you did it. If there was a book or it was on Dr. Oz, I probably did it. And, especially with like keto stuff, I was successful with that for a short amount of time. And you get that shiny weight loss in the beginning and you feel like things are changing and improving for you. And then it stops and those cravings kick in. And carnivore was probably the worst for me. It was the most restrictive. And I know we've talked about it a lot. And I have a lot of PTSD coming off of the carnivore train because it felt like it promised so much to heal everything that was wrong with me. And I kind of felt like the more restrictive I could be, the more I could control the binges. And this was the most restrictive, where I couldn't crave anything because this was going to take every craving away and fix everything for me. And it didn't. And I felt like something was wrong with me because it wasn't working. And I was really just fueling those cravings with being so restrictive. And the binges were so bad coming off of carnivore every single time.
Yeah, it totally. That's generally for 99.99% of people. Yeah, there's that appeal of the weight loss and a lot of like examples, but they're usually people, snapshots they get of people before they go crazy because that need for enough of certain foods, like a diverse, variety of foods, it comes after you, whether it's 2 weeks later, 2 months later. And I did that also. Yeah. Keto, carnivore. And you're right that you start the more desperate you get, the more scared you get, the more extreme of a restriction you seek. And, you did. The first time we met, you had all those books behind you on that desk. Behind you was full, and you've got rid of them, which was a huge needle mover too, eh?
Yeah. So I know we've talked before about I'm really susceptible to content that sort of promises to feel better, and so I would get really sucked in and really obsessive about diets that promised to heal all my issues that I had, all my issues with food and all this. And I would get every book, every audiobook, listen to all the podcasts, all the YouTubes, just to fix me. and it always just, I would get really obsessive and just honestly like feel worse in the end. Because now not only did I have all the problems that I started with, now I just had all the shame because I wasn't doing the program right or the diet right. And so there was a flaw within me. And that's why it didn't work for me. It worked for all these other people. Well, then something's wrong with me because I'm not doing it right. So.
Exactly. And that's unfortunately what those things perpetuate. They draw people in with dramatic case studies and stories, and then they give you extreme rules. And then if you suffer with adherence, there's a lot of guilt and shame in those circles, which is super unfortunate. It hurts a lot of people really bad, as we both know. So with you usually being in things like that, like really restrictive diets and elimination things, after doing all those, what led you to sign up for something like this?
I think it was that I got a little glimmer of that I could have the power, that I didn't have to listen to someone. Like, I didn't have to have someone give me a set of rules that I had to follow. And for me, I really needed to have my voice back, because my entire life I've looked to someone else for the answer. And not to be like, oh, woo woo about it, but like, this did feel more like I would be discovering the answer for me and what works for me, and not just here's your list, here's your set of rules, and this is what it is. And it just seemed more focused on me as a person and my triggers, my patterns, my behaviors, and to work with that. And I really like that approach.
Yeah. And that's good for you, seeing, because it's not as clear. It's not black and white. Here's your list. So it can be hard when you're in that kind of desperate place to see something that's a little bit more abstract, but to know that like you need your compass back and to take that leap of faith. Like, it can be hard to trust ourselves when we haven't had success before. It can be easier to trust, an extreme voice online, giving another set of crazy rules and unrealistic promises. So good for you. And I like that you said your response was like that it could give me back my decision-making, my power. And something we do in the program in the beginning is I get out of you what your clear, like your most important thing is. And for you, it was trust in self. And it's one of maybe the coolest anchor I've ever seen. So an anchor is like, for people watching, create something in your environment that reminds you of what you want. It can be your phone background. It could be a message on your mirror. Heather wrote tattooed trust on her hand. Hey.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
it sort of faded a little bit, but it's on here.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, you committed, and that was very powerful. I remember we had one session and you tattooed that on your hand, and I was like, she is all in. And so I guess going to how things are different now, like before, at the mercy of all these diets and just grasping for something extreme and it never working for years. And then what's different now?
So I feel like before there was just like a deep suffering for me. And now I do feel confident that I can make choices for myself, and I trust that I can go forward and not feel lost. And I don't have these rigid set of rules that I have balance, which I didn't. It was such an uncomfortable feeling before. I remember one of our sessions that I was freaking out because like, ooh, what if I don't ever have balance with my food? And then I realized, oh, this is what it is. I just didn't recognize it. And so and it's just because I've never had that. And so it's sort of wild. I had sort of this grief period too, where I was like, I can't believe I wasted all this time when this is what I could have had all this time, that all this money spent on diets and trainers and all this stuff. Like, I could have just trusted me and I could have been here this whole time. So I have a whole lot of confidence now that I didn't have before. And I'm not defined by my eating. We said that last time, that it's just, I just feel like a normal person now, which is all I wanted.
Yeah. And you really eat like one. Like you really you have coming from someone who like for a year before this was trying everything with carnivore, like just eating meat. And now you're eating all foods. You're flexible. You have treats. You haven't binged in, we didn't set like a day, but you haven't binged in a couple months, eh?
Yeah, it's been at least 2 months. I don't know the exact day, but I couldn't tell you. I mean, probably middle school is probably the last time that I've gone more than 2 months without binging. So I'm 35. So whatever math that is, it's a really long time. And then at my worst, I was binging about every single day. So yeah, I mean, this is pretty huge. And there was one time you had said, it was a post or something, you said that when we like the temptation to binge is so strong when we're trying not to do it all the time or something like that. But I just haven't felt a need to, because I'm allowing so much balance. And if I want the treat, I have it and I go crazy. But if I'm out with my kids and they say, oh, let's go get an ice cream, like, okay. And then I just get an ice cream, and I'm not telling myself, oh God, like even after, like, oh God, I can't have that again, or I've got to go do something to get rid of this ice cream I just had. It's just have the ice cream and move on. Just move on. Just move next meal, whatever. Like, it's fine. And I'm glad that I have that. I know that's not easy for everyone to do that. And I think coming from a place of such restriction for me, I'm just glad to have that freedom, because I was so rigid for so long. So.
Yeah. And that when you're in the rigid zone, you feel like it offers safety. It offers a sense of safety and like it's clarity and it's black and whiteness. But then you get to a point where it's not working, and it's hard to venture into that gray area. But it is where, if you're always letting off a bit of pressure and having a treat here and there, then it's not building in a crazy way that you can't resist or white knuckle through anymore, eh?
Yeah, don't you call it your strategic cake?
Yeah, we have a lot of strategic. This is the thing. People think they need to resolve this problem with just willpower. It's like a couple strategic shifts, strategic piece of cake. I would ask you, what were some of like the tools or things that you learned, the tricks of the trade that we have in the program that were helpful in your breakthroughs?
Definitely in the beginning. So like, I'm not really like a huge sweets person, but like fries and bread or chips, like that's my jam. And so I knew I didn't want to give up fries, which there's never any talk of giving up foods here anyway, but I guess I was afraid they I might not get them, just coming from the restrictive mindset. But I have my mom's night out on Thursdays, and we had discussed like, have your fries, but let's load it with a big salad with a lot of protein and stuff that's really going to satiate you, like from a nutritional state. Have that first, and then enjoy your fries and whatever you may want after that. But I did that a lot in the beginning, leaning a lot on that. And then I felt like that really set me up for like a good base where I just flowed into balance after that. Every morning I have my regular coffee, but I put collagen protein powder and chocolate collagen protein powder, and have this really delicious, it's like drinking hot cocoa every single morning, but it's like 40 grams of protein, and it's so filling and so delicious. And I know it's setting me up really good first thing in the morning. And when I don't have it, I do get like cranky. So it starts my day out so well. And like just loading up on protein before I have something is super helpful. And if you're just starting, that's super helpful. And just finding things that you like and seeing where you can tweak it a little bit, and then have your strategic cake afterwards or whatever. And then sometimes if you're out at a party, eat cake, whatever, just move on after. Just, give yourself some grace. We're humans. We're only here one time. Like, don't be so hard on yourself. Like, just giving myself grace in this whole process too, talking nicer to myself too, has just been huge. So no shame here. It's not welcome here.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember you wrote a couple posts in the group that were really passionate. Like one about like you did have, I remember some emotional times where it was like, damn, all the time I've lost, all the money I've lost.
Mm-hmm.
And then also like a pretty fierce, like, and I'm not letting this go going forward. Right. It's once you kind of get it. Like we say, like, you're not going to go back to picking shiny objects off the shelf. Cause like this isn't, what do we say? This is a program that's built around growth, not adherence. Right.
Yeah.
So you keep growing into this. I don't see you going back to like, give me a list of things I can't do to give me a sense of security kind of lifestyle. Hey.
Yeah, absolutely not. Everything that I could ever want from a diet is, what does everyone say when they want to go on a diet? I want to be able to eat whatever I want. Here you go. Like,
Yeah.
you get to do it here. And that's not, I'm not going to go stuff my face because I don't feel a need to do that. Because when you give yourself the permission to just live and just be and enjoy the food you want to enjoy, but also think about nourishing yourself and your mind, then you don't have a need to do that. And that's another big part of this is nourishing yourself outside of food,
Mm-hmm.
nourishing your brain, taking care of yourself, taking those long baths, taking those walks, just doing things that you also enjoy, because a lot of this is emotional, a lot trying to, feed stuff that we don't get from other places. And so when you bring all these things in, there's your balance. That's what you're looking for. It's just this cohesive way to go through life with balance. And this is it. This is it for me. I have no reason to want to do anything but this. I'm in such a good, solid place. No, I don't want to do anything else.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Because it's a way of living that's sustainable and feels good. And you're right, it takes care of you outside of food. Like we have a personal development kind of component, the non-food nourishment. And you said also like people think that, if I remember thinking that for a long time with certainty, if I give myself permission, then I will go crazy all the time and I will gain a bunch of weight. And you said you have permission and you're like, I'm not going crazy. And you said even your weight's coming down. Hey.
Yeah. I've reached my lowest weight that I've had in several months. When I was doing carnivore, when I came off carnivore, I initially gained a bunch, those carbs, putting that water back on.
Yeah.
But, now I'm just like tonight, I had a bowl of rice with a bunch of chicken curry and a piece of naan. And I don't feel like I'm going to wake up in the morning and be super bloated. Today I had a croissant with ham and cheese on it. And today I hit my lowest weight I've ever had. So, or, in the last few months. So it's just wild that I'm getting everything that I want. So I don't have many complaints. So, yeah.
Totally. Yeah, we're built to thrive, right? So when we're given space to breathe and find balance, then it's like, okay, now, and it takes longer than keto crash weight loss, but it's like, if you feel like I can do this forever, then you're always going to steadily improve. And every time I talk to you, that's the vibe that you're on. And it's really cool. It happened in waves. Like there was initial, like this is, and then like you say, you had like carnivore PTSD, like a wave of like, a voice note come through. Hey, I remember one, you're like, I think I might just like eat carbs, like if I really need them. And I was like, let's not do that. And that was the last I heard of that. And that was like
Yeah.
6 weeks ago. And since
Yeah.
then, it's been excitement and consistent. Like it's not eventful. It's not crazy. It's just like you come to a call and you're like, things are going good.
Yeah. Yeah. Uneventful is good for me. Yeah, I was a little, like I said, I went through a lot of different phases here. It was a lot of growth. And I think it's good that I went through that little micro panic of, maybe the carbs are bad again. Because it just made me realize, I think it was that last little bit of myself that was trying to assign a rule, because 100% trusting myself yet. And I just needed that little push of like, no, it's okay. You can trust yourself. You're capable. You can do this. You are doing this. And from then on, I was just like, hell yeah, I am. I can, and I'm going to. So, yeah.
And you will keep. I'm so excited to watch you. You are only 35. You have to watch you the rest of your life. Like, keep stepping more into yourself and keep. It's amazing. I'm really glad that we're connected and excited to watch your new life unfold for you. That isn't reaching for those things. And I guess I would ask you then. We were talking about before this interview, like there's a lot of people in that place who are consuming content of extreme diets, of carnivore, of eating butter for lunch, of keto, of Weight Watchers, and, kind of coming out of a cycle of being in a dozen of them and considering going into the next one. What would you say to that person, I guess, if they were considering doing this or, trying a carnivore diet?
Again, how long do we have? But no, really, I would just ask them, like, what is it that you're really looking for? Is it sustainability? Is it trust in yourself and confidence in yourself? Or are you wanting someone to tell you what to do? Or do you want to have the autonomy yourself? And that was the key for me, is giving myself back that autonomy to rule my life. I don't need someone else to tell me what to do. This is something that is going to give you the power back. That's going to teach you how to live with balance and grace, and just, for me, overall happiness and no longer fearing food. And I highly recommend.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I agree with you. People do deserve to be at the wheel of their own vehicle and to be excited about life, and to walk away knowing that they can take on anything, and they can have the naan bread and they can have the chicken curry and not catastrophize it, and live the life that they deserve. We don't owe one more day to these crazy diets that essentially want people to fail, so they keep buying, right? I want to coach myself out of a job. I want to keep giving power back to people. It's a supportive process. It's not like come in and do these things. We have principles, but yeah, it's really, they're all built to give it back to you, because that's what you deserve, freedom. So yeah, and you've shown up every step of the way for yourself, and I really appreciate you, and you really deserve it. Everyone does. I'm going to close now. Is there anything else that you want to share? Any last note before we finish the interview?
No, just, just choose yourself, and the balance and grace can be all here for you. And it's a super supportive community. And this has been the best thing that I've done for myself in my life. And I'm a completely different person than I was. So much confidence now and trust in myself, which is what I've wanted all this time. So yeah, I appreciate you, Jordan.
Yeah, I appreciate you too. Yeah, that was beautifully said. And it is a great community too. We have growing group of people who have taken the program and have a weekly group call. And yeah, you're not alone in here. There's lots of support, and Heather's sticking around in the members area. So if you join, you probably meet Heather and a bunch of other people who are shining their light and actually living free from this. I remember for years being like, maybe I'll get better at resisting, but it's not possible to just not want to eat all the sugar every 2 weeks. And then it fades into I don't want to do that. I like this way of living better. It really happens.
Yeah, totally agree.
So great. Awesome. We'll close there. Appreciate you, and have a great night.
Thank you too.